literally makes my brain buzz. I'm so happy the NFL is almost back. Preseason is rolling, and season opener around the corner, September 9th. So you're going to need to get all your futures bets in. So that's what we're going to be doing the next 4 episodes of All Football All the Time here on Nuanez Now. Brooks Nuanez joining us here with me, Colter Nuanez. We are coming to you live from the Grizzly Disposal Studio. Grizzly Disposal has construction roll-off boxes for your construction project. Don't wait days or even weeks. Grizzly Disposal can get them to you within 24 hours. All you have to do is give them a call, 406-541-7171, Grizzly Disposal. The only Bears that should be in your garbage. If you missed last Thursday, that's August 20th episode, we went through the AFC and the NFC East. We gave you the narratives around the divisions. We gave you our guesses for over-under win totals. Then we looked up the actual over-under win totals, and then we gave you our picks on our over-under win totals for 8 of the 32 teams in the NFL. Today, we're going to go up north with the AFC and the NFC North. So looking forward to diving into it. As always, All Football All the Time, probably presented by Sportsbet Montana. Sportsbet Montana has a great social media presence, so be sure to follow them on Instagram, on Facebook, and on X. And look for our collaborative reels on Instagram as well for some of our special bets and some of our leans and things like that as well. So AFC North, the black and blue division. This is interesting, Brooks, because I think for a couple years, actually for a handful of years, I think you could have said the AFC North was right there with the NFC West as the most competitive division in football. Well, now the Steelers are stuck in purgatory and are sort of just awash in just being a 500 team for however many years, and they have a new coach now in Mike McCarthy. The Ravens, a huge point of transition, a new coach for the first time in 15 years with John Harbaugh moving on and Kevin Minter taking that head job. The Bengals looked like one of the teams to beat in the AFC when Joe Burrow went to Arrowhead and upset Patrick Mahomes and the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, but they haven't done anything. They haven't even made the playoffs since that 2022 run. And then the Browns are just the Browns, just chilling at the bottom of the division year in and year out, even though they have had some pretty good players, especially on defense. So that this division, it seems like it's a pivotal year for this division because it seems like this division's lost some prestige to maybe where it was even just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair to say. I mean, last year the Ravens had the highest projected over-under win total at 11.5 and go ahead and win 8 games. I mean, that's a complete blunder by them. And Steelers stuck in the playoffs. The Bengals were terrible at times. I mean, I thought the Bengals were going to win that division, and there was parts of the season where I thought that they were a pretty truly bad team. And then, as you mentioned, the Browns are browning it up, just doing what they've been doing. As you say, decent roster. I kind of like when I look at the Browns, it's hard to say that this team isn't going to be improved as far as over the win totals go. But then they're the Browns, and you just got to assume that it's a tough division, cold weather. If they can't produce points on offense, it's going to be tough sledding. Get rid of the best player in franchise history in Myles Garrett. That doesn't set you up for any kind of leap on defense, even though I do like their pieces.
When it comes to Baltimore, how much do you think it will influence the Ravens having a new head coach? Is John Harbaugh being let go? Is that an objective gain or is that an objective loss for Baltimore?
Well, you have to assume it's a loss. I mean, one of the better coaches of his generation. You also have to assume that new blood might energize a team that needs a spark. There's just no two ways about that. The Ravens need a spark. Lamar Jackson needs a different voice in his ear. It's clear that was what was needed. I thought it was the right departure. Unfortunately, he had to fire him. But I do think that it was probably the right move for both parties.
Well, and it's interesting too because the same thing happened in Buffalo. Buffalo made the playoffs and won a playoff game, but they still split ways with Sean McDermott. But you have to think that the front office is either heavily consulting the respective quarterbacks, a couple MVPs in those two cities in Buffalo and Baltimore, and if they're not heavily consulting them, they're making the decisions based on what they know about those guys. Like, make no mistake, Lamar Jackson wanted a new head coach. Like, that has to be a part of the narrative. Just like Josh Allen wanted and needed a new head coach, and he wanted it to be his quarterback guy in Joe Brady in Buffalo. So Minter, not an offensive guy, so it's going to be another, I mean, that's been Baltimore forever. They haven't had an offensive guy since Brian Billick way back in the early 2000s. But you have to think that Lamar Jackson was in on this, wanting to sort of a fresh change at the head coaching position.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and I don't know if he picked this head coach particularly, but he's a Harbaugh disciple from Jim's side, being at the Chargers, being at the DC on the Michigan team that won a national championship. So this guy is a defensive guy through and through, which is the Ravens' DNA. I just think that John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson had come to ends, right? I mean, they just had come to a point where they no longer were on the same page and they didn't agree. And Lamar Jackson, at the end of the day, you take his side. You don't side with John Harbaugh. You side with your franchise quarterback, the MVP, former MVP, and you roll with it. You roll with it for this season. At the very least, Lamar Jackson at least will have a spark. Is my anticipation.
The Pittsburgh Steelers were the champions in this division a year ago. They went 10-7. They were the only team from this division to make the playoffs. They beat Baltimore in a crazy and ugly Week 17 game that helped lift them into the playoffs and eliminated Baltimore and essentially ended John Harbaugh's career in Baltimore. The Bengals were a train wreck last year, worst defense in the NFL, gave up almost 500 points. This is an astounding statistic, Brooks. The Bengals, gave up 5.2 yards per rush. Like that is like a bad college defense. In the NFL, that's like unheard of. Like bad defenses give up 4.5 yards a carry. Giving up over 5 yards a carry is crazy for the Bengals. We'll come back to them in a minute. And then Cleveland, they went 5-12 and they pulled up the rear in this division. But I want to talk about Pittsburgh for a minute because Mike Tomlin was the head coach of Pittsburgh from 2007 until last year. He was one of the longest tenured coaches in all of pro sports. He won 193 games in Pittsburgh, but he hadn't had a season with more than 10 wins in 5 seasons. And they had been sort of just stuck in that spot, from 21 on, 9-7, 9-8, 10-7, 10-7, 10-7. He sort of became the Jeff Fisher of his generation. Yet it's going to just be interesting to see a new voice and a new face on the sidelines for one of the premier franchises in the NFL. What do you think of the transition from Mike Tomlin to Mike McCarthy?
I'm not a Mike McCarthy guy, so I am a Mike Tomlin guy. So I guess I'll just leave it at that. Another team that likely needed a spark. Mike Tomlin's a defensive guy, and they haven't necessarily been at the level that they needed to be at the last couple of years. Things play out in life, right? In the NFL, pretty rare to stay around as long as he has. Sure, you have guys in his generation like Bill Belichick, those kind of guys that have been at one spot forever. Mike Tomlin, I don't know if you said, was it 18, 19 years? It's a very long time.
2007 to 2024, 25. So yeah, I guess that'd be 19 seasons. Yep.
Yeah, it's a long time. So I have no idea. I would say, as far as this team goes, I would say that they probably fall in the same bucket as the Cowboys for me, where they could win 12 games and they could win 6 or 7 games. I could see it on both ends. It's hard to say that Aaron Rodgers is just going to go ahead and just go win this division and at this point of his career. But, who wants to prove someone wrong more than Aaron Rodgers? Who's got more juice when it comes to being competitive and wanting to go get it than Aaron Rodgers? So I'm not going to start doubting him now. We'll see what this over-under line is because there is a threshold for me that I'm not willing to go over. I think you said 10-7 last year. I'd be surprised if they were able to reach that mark again. But I could see 9-8, and that makes it so that you're in play for 10-7.
The Bengals have had basically the same problems for the duration of the Zach Taylor / Joe Burrow era. They've had a great quarterback. They've had great offensive skill guys. They've had average to below average offensive lines, and they've had downright putrid defenses. And that defense, they got rid of one of their best players in Trey Hendrickson this last offseason, but they gain one of the best players in the NFL in Dexter Lawrence, so we'll see if that pays dividends for the Bengals. I think the most interesting part about the Bengals narrative, though, is that you don't really hear that Zach Taylor is on the hot seat. And I don't understand why. Because, they won the AFC in 2022, and they haven't made the playoffs since. Like, that's unacceptable. They went 6-11 last year with what's supposed to be the best quarterback-receiver combo in the entire game, in the entire NFL. So, do you think that's weird or surprising?
as a reputable media outlet, I will go ahead and start the narrative that Zach Taylor's on the hot seat. I mean, if,
See, here's the thing. I think he's not under as much pressure because I think that the front office knows that their problems are because of the front office.
interesting.
Like, you got to keep Joe Burrow upright, and you got to have a better defense. Like, they know. Like, this is the thing. Trey Hendrickson, like, the media world wanted to be like, how are you letting a guy that had multiple 15-sack seasons walk? Well, what did his numbers actually mean? Like, if you're dead last you're giving up 150 yards a game on the ground, rushing. Like, your problems are so far beyond. Your 15 sacks aren't helping you win any football games if you're going to give up 150 yards a game and 5.2 yards per carry. Like, that's it. You are going to lose way more often than you win if you're giving up that level of rushing numbers. And I just wonder if the front office isn't as scrutinized. They don't scrutinize Zach Taylor as much because they know that their deficiencies are defined and not Zach Taylor's fault.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair analysis of it. And this team, is Joe Burrow a leader of men and a truly winning player? I think it's at this point like worth asking. I don't know if he like galvanizes a locker room to the sense of like where you're like, man, I'll die for this dude.
I mean, have you watched Quarterback? Have you watched the Quarterback with Joe Burrow in it?
I have.
I mean,
pretty odd guy.
So very enigmatic guy, man. Like he's pretty happy to just sit at home with his hooded sweatshirt on, playing the piano. Like he still has his mom do his laundry. Like I don't really know if that's a guy that can rally the troops.
Worth asking, but
yes,
I mean obviously a tremendous stable of weapons. I mean I think Chase Brown is the most underrated running back in the league. Obviously he's on the fantasy radar for a lot of people, but I think overall he can play between the tackles. He's got juice. I think T. Higgins, Jamar Chase are, they're right there. I mean, Jamar Chase, until further notice or until someone else changes my opinion, is the best receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, it's him or Justin Jefferson. Those are the two.
Yeah, but Justin Jefferson has a terrible quarterback situation.
Or maybe not. We'll get to that in the NFC North here coming up in a minute. Well, Jackson Smith-Njigba also has to be one of the three guys that you mentioned. But totally fair. I mean,
taking Jamar Chase all day over both those guys.
Jamar Chase is one of the best players in the league. There's no question.
Yep. So, but then, as you mentioned, you add Dexter Lawrence, he's an absolute beast, man. When he's at his best, he's the best inside guy in the league. I might take Jeffrey Simmons. There's a couple guys out there, but I think that Dexter Lawrence, when he's at his best, is as good as it gets. The numbers, the analytics say it. The eye test says it. They also signed Jonathan Allen, formerly of the Commanders, and last year I think he was on the Vikings.
Yeah, former SEC Defensive Player of the Year at Alabama.
Absolute beast. I mean, Jonathan Allen's an awesome player, and maybe not the production that he would have been projected for out of college, but I still think he's got a lot of juice. I mean, he plays a position that doesn't necessarily get a ton of production, but still I think those two guys on the inside is really nice. And they added Boye Mafe from Seattle, who also had a great year last year for a Super Bowl winning team. So added Brian Cook, added Kyle Duggar in the secondary. Both those guys are sweet. I mean, Brian Cook was a good player for the Chiefs, and Kyle Duggar started for years in New England, most recently for the Steelers. But I think that both those are nice additions. So defensively, I mean, they went and tried to improve it. Like they definitely knew their weaknesses, and I think that those 3 or 4 guys right there definitely improve that defense. At least twofold.
Well, football all the time. Get the Sportsbet Montana app on your mobile devices. It's a great way to curate your parlays, put your futures bets in. You can make your bets and then just go to the QR code section and screenshot the QR code. You can scan it right there at the kiosk. Don't hold up the line. Just get the bets in and out and know exactly what you're doing when you get up to the machine. Appreciate Sportsbet Montana for the continued support of us here at Nuanez Now. All right, and then you got the Browns, which it's been the same narrative for Cleveland for forever. Can they figure out the quarterback spot? And can they figure out a way to actually have a winning mentality? Or are they going to be in this defensive slugfest after defensive slugfest that is just this endless string of 21-19 losses like they just have become masters of having? But certainly you got to start with Deshaun Watson. I mean, he's still the 7th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Deshaun Watson's the guy that started all this with the $225+ million contracts. When he signed his $230 million deal, all guaranteed, that was the first one of all these dominoes that then fell to get everybody from Brock Purdy to Dak Prescott to Justin Herbert and everybody in between paid at least that much. Watson hasn't been any sort of good or productive for years, yet they're saddled with that contract, so they need to at least give him one more shot at it from a financial perspective. And if it's not him, is Shedeur Sanders the guy? But it's just been a quarterback train wreck in Cleveland for a quarter century, it seems like. So where are we at with this? The Browns being stuck in the basement of this division.
I mean, when have the Browns had a good quarterback?
Well, here's the thing. The Browns went to the playoffs 2 years ago with a 40-year-old quarterback in Joe Flacco.
I know. I'm just saying in franchise history, like someone that I know.
The Browns have had no good quarterbacks. I mean, Joe Flacco is one of the best quarterbacks the Browns have had. The Browns have made the playoffs, I think, 3 times since they became the Browns again. You know, the old Browns left Cleveland, went to Baltimore, but then when they revitalized the franchise in the late 90s, I mean, Joe Flacco, that's it. That's the only guy that they've had.
I don't think they've had one.
Yeah.
So you'd have to say that since they've been the Cleveland Browns for the last 30 years, that Deshaun Watson would probably be the best quarterback they've ever had. Which is, that's saying something. I mean, it's easy to forget about what Deshaun Watson's peak was or when he was at his best. He was an elite quarterback. I mean, Deshaun Watson can play. I don't know about the rest of the guys. I don't know what I think of Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel. I mean, I think that Shedeur gets a crazy rap for, you know, a variety of reasons, but I do think that there is something there. Can he be a good NFL starting quarterback? I don't probably think so. I wouldn't bet that. But if Deshaun Watson can turn the corner and actually be healthy and play, I mean, you have to assume that's worth 2 or 3 wins. I mean, this is, like you said, a team that's just been beating their head against the wall for 4 wins with these defensive slugfests. If he can get them to score 24 points a game, it's got to be worth, 3-4 wins. And then you're talking about a team that's flirting with 500. I don't know if I believe that, but I do think this team could be improved just simply by the addition by subtraction kind of thing.
Browns quarterbacks since they reinstituted the franchise in 1999. Ty Detmer, Doug Peterson, Tim Couch, Kelly Holcomb, Jeff Garcia, Luke McCown, Trent Dilfer, Charlie Fry, Derek Anderson, Brady Quinn, Ken Dorsey, Colt McCoy, Jake Delhomme, Seneca Wallace, Brandon Whedon, Jason Campbell, Thad Lewis, I don't even know who that is, Brian Hoyer, Johnny Manziel, Josh McCown, Austin Day, Cody Kessler, Robert Griffin III, Deshaun Kaiser, Kevin Hogan, another guy I have no idea who that is, Baker Mayfield for 4 straight years. Actually, that was the only stability. Every single one of those that was a different year that I just went through. Every single year, a new starting quarterback. But then Baker Mayfield, 2018 through 2021, before he was then replaced by Mr. Electricity, Case Keenum. They went with Jacoby Brissett in 2022 before Deshaun Watson emerged. Then Watson started 6 games in 2023, but Joe Flacco led him to the playoffs. 2024, a combination of Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Bailey Zappi. And then last year, perhaps the worst of the group, Joe Flacco, Shedeur Sanders, and Dylan Gabriel. I mean, what an absolute train wreck that is.
How can't you just trade for somebody?
Anybody.
I mean, the best guy on that, besides Baker, is Jeff Garcia. Was the best guy you named.
Totally. Yeah, like, how don't you just go get, I don't know, Andy Dalton.
Anybody.
Anybody. You can't be rolling with Cody Kessler. Deshaun Kaiser.
I mean, they started Deshaun Kaiser. Deshaun Kaiser went 0-16. They started him 0-16.
He in fact started 15 games. They went with Kevin Hogan for 1 game just to make sure he didn't get to 0-16. It's just astounding. All right, let's guess the over/under win totals. We will start with the Cleveland Browns. I just don't think it matters, man. I just think that they are just what they are. They're just the Browns. They're just stuck. They're stuck. I don't know, is there enough weapons around Deshaun Watson, even if Deshaun Watson's back to being good? They've been pretty good on defense because they've had so many high draft picks and they've drafted pretty well. I just think that they're stuck in the 5 to 7 win range. I think their ceiling is a 7-10. So I'm going to put their over/under at 5.5.
Yeah, I'll say 6.5. And there's a variety of reasons, but I think that they did improve the offensive line. And I think that Quinshon Judkins is a sweet running back.
He is.
And I think that if they, again, can manufacture more than 20 points, they're 2 or 3 wins better. And last year they were 5-12, right? Yep. So 2 or 3 wins better. It's got to be right there. So I'm going to say even just 2 wins better, 6-5 for the Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland gave up 22 points a game last year, which is actually decent. And they were, pretty good against the run defensively, but they only averaged 16.4 points per game, dead last in the NFL. So,
their games are hilarious to watch.
Your average score is 22-17. That's your average Browns game if you're going to tune in, and the Browns are on the losing side of that. Okay, who's next? Who do you think is going to be the third team in this division? Is it the Bengals or is it the Steelers?
I think it should be the Bengals, but it's going to be the Steelers.
I think it should be the Steelers.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the Steelers, just because they've been 10-7 for 5 years in a row, I think that book will give them some juice. And I also think the fact that there's a lot of Pittsburgh fans out there in the world that I think maybe are still sort of drunk off of the legend of the Steelers and maybe have Aaron Rodgers in a higher esteem than maybe he deserves to be with how old he is. I would say that this should be 7.5, but I think it's actually going to be 8.5 or 9.5, just given what they've been and sort of the blind belief in just the Steelers brand and what they represent.
Yep, I agree with you. And as I mentioned about them being in the same bucket as the Cowboys for me, I'm going to say that that's a really similar line, which was 9.5. So 10-7 5 years in a row. I'm going to put that line at 9.5.
Okay, I'm going to say 8.5. But I think your 9.5 is not bad. The Bengals, I think that the Bengals are one of the teams that's going to get influenced in this, because I think one of the things that people have the hardest time understanding is that the NFL is not an offensive league anymore. The defenses have evolved to the point where there is enough speed, there's enough game planning, and there's enough just dog-ass defensive coaches and players that certainly the quarterback being elite is the definitive factor to put you over the top, but it is a way more even league than it has been at any time in the last 30 years. Yet I do think that there's numbers that will be influenced by the common fans' obsession with and much better understanding of offensive football than defensive football. And that is the Bengals to the T. People see Joe Burrow. They see the fact that they score so many points. They see the fact they got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Chase Brown and all these great offensive skill guys. And I just think that they're going to be overrated. I would put the Bengals over under exactly where I put the Steelers at 8.5, but I think the book's going to have it at 9.5 or 10.5.
I totally agree with you. I'd put it at 8.5 as well, but I'm going to say it's 9.5 for all the reasons that you said. You know my favorite saying in the NFL, Colter, right? You pay a man $1 million to kill another man, and he's willing to do so.
That's right.
Defense wins.
That's right. And we're going to get into that conversation a little later on this football season, but I think that the Sam Darnold Seattle Seahawks model is going to be the model moving forward. If you don't have Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, you got to just build it with a good quarterback and great players everywhere else, because all the quarterbacks outside of the top 2 or 3 guys just are the same. Like the results are not as much different as than if you could just go pay a guy like Darnold $25 million and then also pay Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy and Derek Hall and Devin Witherspoon and all these great defensive guys. So I think that's going to be the model moving forward. But I think the Ravens will be the favorite to win this division. I'm interested to see. They've had some of the highest over-under win totals in the league since we started doing these NFL futures. I don't know if that's going to remain true with Kevin Minter as the new head coach, but I do think that the Ravens will be favored. I want to put them right in that same tier with the Bills and the Eagles. I think they're going to be right there at 10.5.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to say 10.5 as well. As we said, I think there'll be probably 5 or 6 teams that are at 10.5, and I believe that the Ravens are going to be one of them. They're a tough one for me because do you believe that Lamar Jackson can go do it? That he can go be a Super Bowl winning quarterback?
No.
I agree. I don't think so either.
But here's the thing. I don't believe that anybody can do it besides Patrick Mahomes, Matt Stafford, and Sam Darnold. So then the other guys, somebody else is going to do it. Out of everybody else, it's an option. Like Lamar has it on his shoulders. Like if they're going to win it, it's going to be on him.
Right.
Whereas if the Chargers won a Super Bowl, it would be on Herbert's shoulders a little bit, but it would also be on the whole team. If the Lions win the Super Bowl. People would not be saying Jared Goff carried them to the Super Bowl. Dan Campbell and the Lions would have won the Super Bowl with Jared Goff as the quarterback. But in terms of like guys that can actually carry their team to a Super Bowl, I mean, it's Mahomes and who, right?
Yep. I think that's fair.
All right. So we got the Ravens at 10.5. We're consensus on that. We got the Bengals at 9.5. We're consensus on that. You got the Steelers one above me. I got them at 8.5. You got them at 9.5. Is that right? Or you got 8.5 as well?
No, I like 9.5.
Okay, I got 8.5 for the Steelers. And then we got the Browns coming in at 5.5. We'll take a break here on Nuanez Now. Come back and we'll actually reveal what the over-under win totals are for those teams. And we'll talk about the NFC North and give you the picks there as well. Don't change that dial. Keep it right here. It's 102.9 ESPN Radio. Welcome back. 102.9 ESPN Radio. SWX, but welcome back. 102.9 ESPN Radio, streaming live on 1029ESPN.com, as well as the ESPN MT app, and on YouTube and on Facebook. We are coming to you live from the Grizzly Disposal Studio. Grizzly Disposal has one bin recycling. They can pick it up from your home a couple times a month. If you'd like to add the service or make the switch, visit GrizzlyDisposal.com. Grizzly Disposal, the only Bears that should be in your garbage. Brooks Nuanez joining us, all football, all the time. All right, let's reveal the over-under win totals that the book has for the AFC North, and then we'll give you the deep dive on the North Division, the NFC North. We had the Ravens at 10.5. That's our prediction for over-under wins. We had the Bengals at 9.5. Brooks had the Steelers at 9.5, and I had the Steelers at 8.5, and then we both agreed the Browns at 5.5. So let's start from the bottom up. Where are we at with Cleveland?
So we got a lot of these right. We were only game off a couple of them, I guess, but the Cleveland Browns are 5.5 projected wins. You want to guess or want me to keep going?
No, that's good. We'll just keep going through them, and then we'll make our picks.
Steelers are 8.5, so you were right, not 9.5.
Yep.
Bengals are 9.5, and then the Ravens are 11.5 wins.
11.5. So the highest on the board so far is the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, so then let's start from the top down. The Ravens at 11.5. I'm going under.
I'm going under as well.
I think 10 or 11 for the Ravens.
I think they could absolutely win 11 games. I don't see them winning 12 or 13.
I don't really either, and I don't know why that line is like that.
That's odd because we've already have the Patriots, the Bills, the Eagles at that 10.5, and I think that all three of those teams are better than the Ravens.
Okay, I think that then. So then what? Cincinnati is at 10.5.
9.5.
9.5. Oh baby. In terms of my actual own personal bets, that's a stay away for me.
No doubt.
Like I don't know. I really don't. I could see them going 6-11 or 11-6. I really have no idea. I do think the defensive moves they've made has a chance to make them better, but I also think they need a new defensive culture. Man, for the sake of this exercise, I'm going over.
I'm going over as well. I think that this is a 10-win team. Again, with that extra 17th game in there, going 10-7 is not lighting the world on fire, And I do think that Joe Burrow is arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think when he's good, he's great. Love the offensive weapons. A couple improvements on defense, likely. I just think that this team is a 10-win team.
Okay, Pittsburgh 8.5.
Well, I had it at 9.5, and I was willing to go over, so I'm feeling pretty good at 8.5.
Going over, even despite your rant and raving about Aaron Rodgers being totally washed.
I didn't say he was washed. I said I wouldn't bet against him. I think that 8.5 is a great number. 9.5 I would have flirted with. I just don't know how they're going to go below 500.
Man, I don't know what I'm going to pick here because the two things that I have a self-admitted extreme bias about in the NFL is that I am so biased towards Aaron Rodgers because I think he's the best guy I've ever seen do it. I'm not saying he's got the best quarterback legacy, but when he was at the peak of his powers, he's the best dude I've ever seen play the position. And I still have that stuck in my head, even though he's 43 years old. And the other thing I'm just so incredibly biased about, and you're going to have to push me all year on this, is I just think the Bears suck, and I'm just going to think they suck for the rest of time, and I just can't get over it. Like, the Bears are the only team in the NFL that I just hate. I can't stand them. I can't stand Caleb Williams, and I'm going to have to get talked out of it week in and week out because I'm blind. I'm blind to the Bears. I'm blind. I thought the best bet in the whole NFL last year was the Bears under, and then they blew it out of the water. And they smoked the over by like 3 wins. So, anyways, we'll come back to the North. But I still have like 2018 or 2014 Aaron Rodgers in my head, even though it's 2026 and he is no longer that player. So I don't know. All that said, I still am taking the under.
Interesting. Okay.
Personally, I'm staying away from that because I think that like 8 or 9 is exactly where they're at.
You think that the Steelers and just the infrastructure and the culture and stuff is going to go below 500?
Well, who do they have left on defense? I mean, they still have T.J. Watt, but he's past his best years. They still have Cam Hayward. He's past his best years. They still have Patrick Queen. He's an elite player.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cameron Hayward, T.J. Watt, Patrick Queen, Alex Highsmith, Joey Porter Jr.
Highsmith, yep.
Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Ramsey. I mean,
yeah,
it's a decent. It's all about if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy. If Aaron Rodgers plays 17 games, I just don't know how they're going to not win 8 of them.
I just also think that DK Metcalf is wildly overrated. If DK Metcalf didn't look like what he looked like with his shirt off, I don't know if anybody would think he was good.
Yeah, they signed or traded for Michael Pittman Jr., who I think is a pretty good player.
He was good in Indy for sure.
They signed Rico Dowdle from Carolina, who's going to be – now they have Jalen Ward, Rico Dowdle. They drafted Caleb Johnson from Iowa in the 3rd round last year. I mean, 3 decent running backs. You got a bunch of tight ends that can block. You know, Pat Freiermuth's a good player. I don't know, man. I think it's all about, like every team in the NFL, right, Colter? It's all about the division. If they can go 4-2 in the division, or at least 3-3, win your home games. I like some of the teams, like they have some of their tougher games on the schedule. Denver, Houston, all coming to Pittsburgh. So, you know, those are like, I like they start the season with Atlanta. I like them winning that game at home. So you're 1-0. Then you have some of the tougher teams coming at home. I just think that they can manufacture, 8 wins at the very least, which would put them right under the under. I just don't see how they don't get 9 and go just over 500.
Yeah, I think you talked me into it. You're right. I mean, they're just going to get 9 or 10 wins. Like they're just going to be over 500.
And again, in this new NFL, and with the infrastructure that the Steelers have, going 9-8 is not lighting the world on fire. That is not. You're not like a good team doing that. So if you get good at all, you could win 10, 11 games.
Man, I hate this division. I don't know if I'm going to actually bet any of these personally.
I don't. The only one that I like is the last one, is the Browns.
The Browns, yeah.
But yeah. I think that I like it for a different reason than you might.
You're going to take the over.
I like the over.
I actually do too.
Yeah, I like 6 wins. 6 wins is great for this team.
Yep.
New coach, Deshaun Watson back, decent to pretty damn good defense. Like I think that they can win 6 games.
We're going to have to be really careful on our week-to-week bets because a lot of times you're scoring it out and you're like, okay, Browns are in the bottom 5 or bottom 6 of the power ranking. Okay, let's bet against it. I don't think we need to. I think the Browns could win several games this year that maybe are against better teams, and we can't just be hammering against the Browns. I'd much more be prone to hammer against the Jets and the
Cardinals and the
Dolphins, Cardinals, Titans. Those and maybe Raiders, depending on how things are going. But the Browns, I think, are actually outside of that group, even though I do think they're going to be a below 500.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that they could be a team that was a lot like the Falcons last year that ends up going like 8-9. They're feisty. They're good when they're good. They're terrible when they're bad. But like it's just a tough team to bet against.
All right, is that 102.9 ESPN Radio? We're actually taking an early break here. Come back and talk all things NFC North and give you the picks and over-unders on that one. That's next. I'll change that now. Keep it right here. Welcome back into the North. Hope we have enough time for this. We trying to piece it all together here, but I think we have a good 15 minutes to talk about the NFC North. So let's get right into it. When it comes to the main narrative around this division, it's that it was a division with a whole bunch of teams that were trying to find their way. It was basically Green Bay and everybody else. Well, now I think everybody seemed to have found their way in a certain extent. I think the Vikings at least have a coach that they really trust in Kevin O'Connell. We'll see how the biggest quarterback experiment in the conference goes with Kyler Murray winning the starting job over J.J. McCarthy. The Packers, have the stability that they've had for years and years, and I think that's something that can push them forward. And the Bears have a hot new quarterback and a hot new young coach with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, respectively. And then the Lions were the team to beat in the division for a couple of years, but then took a step back last year. both because of coaching staff evolution as well as because of some injuries. But I think this is actually the division that has the most good teams. Like, you could talk me into every single one of the teams in this division winning this division. And that's what I think makes it not necessarily the best division of football. I think that's the NFC West, but I think it's the most competitive division in the NFL.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. When you talk about NFC West with the three teams up top that are just, absolute beasts, the Cardinals are definitely a bottom feeder. So as far as top to bottom, hard to say that this is not the best division in the NFL.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with the bottom. Then the Vikings have, I think, the most interesting quarterback situation because they've sort of fumbled the bag multiple times, right? They didn't sign Sam Darnold. At the time, it seemed justifiable because of the 2 games that he had to end the season 2 years ago. But then he turns around and leads the Seahawks to 17 overall wins last year, including the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold's won 31 games the last 2 years. That's the most of any quarterback in the NFL, period. So that was certainly a miss on Minnesota's part. They thought J.J. McCarthy was going to be the guy. He looked like the guy for moments in time early last year and then was nowhere close to the guy for most of the year. And now they took the flyer on Kyler Murray, a former number 1 overall pick, but they're getting him for $1.3 million. So if it hits, it will be the greatest quarterback salary cap scenario in the NFL, period. But there's a lot of question marks whether it hits or not. So, I mean, that's the defining narrative for the Vikings in this division race.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings, I've been off on their roster for the last couple of years. I mean, there's not a lot that I like on defense. I mean, it's a totally average roster. There's nothing that's like glaringly negative about it, but there's nothing that I love outside of the skill positions. I mean, Aaron Jones, we'll see if he has any juice at running back left, but Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, one of the best combos in the league at receiver. I'm a Kyler Murray fan. I'm a Kyler Murray believer. I don't love his personality or whatever, but I think the dude has so much juice and so much talent. It's insane. So definitely an upgrade when it comes to quarterback over J.J. McCarthy, but still the roster's nothing for me that I love.
Defensively, you're right. The personnel is very average, but they have a great defensive coordinator, and they run a Casino Royale type defense that's very hard to prepare for.
Definitely.
And that helps. It helps them get the most out of some, like Andrew Van Ginkel, for example, is sort of a gimmick type of player, but he's a great player in that system. If he went to, Baltimore or Buffalo or something, I think he's a below average or average player. But in that system, he can be a guy that comes off the edge. He can move him all around. He can, he's just one of the many examples of the stuff that Brian Flores does defensively. I think that's what makes the Vikings above average defensively, even if their personnel is, like you said, totally average. The NFC North looked like this last year. The Bears were the division champs at 11-6. The Packers had a tie on their record, which then helped them get the tiebreaker over the Vikings and the Lions. Packers were 9-7-1. They made the playoffs. The Vikings and the Lions each finished at 9-8. It was the only division in the National Football League with 4 teams that finished with winning records. Detroit, huge year. The narrative last year was, how does Dan Campbell operate as a head coach? With Ben Johnson moving on to become the head coach of the Chicago Bears and Aaron Glenn moving on to become the head coach of the New York Jets. It didn't go that well. I thought Detroit was up and down. I think Detroit has a great roster. I think that it's unacceptable for them to miss the playoffs. I know they had some injuries, but I think they should be back in a big way. And if they're not back in a big way, I think you have to seriously start asking some questions about the leadership and the execution, because I think that roster-wise, they absolutely have to be a playoff team.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think this division could look a whole lot like it did last year, to be honest, Colter. I could see it kind of just rinse and repeat with maybe the Lions snagging an extra win or so. But I don't see a ton of regression or downgrade on any 4 of these teams. I also don't see a huge upgrade. You could say maybe the Vikings and the quarterback situation is one of them. The Bears, year 2 with Caleb Williams. Maybe the Lions find some footing. Packers, Jordan Love takes us. I mean, even if if Jordan Love takes a step, I still see this team kind of being the same when it comes to the Packers. Even if Caleb Williams is above and beyond better than he has been, I still think that 11 wins is kind of a ceiling for a Bears team. So, as we mentioned, it's a very good division. They will beat up on each other. You talk about a cold weather division with 2 indoor teams, which is unique because you can find a spark on the road when you're indoors, but also those indoor teams having to go outdoors in cold weather. All that stuff plays. It should be a great division.
I think it should be a great division as well. All right, so let's with the Bears then. I mean, Are you a believer or not in the Bears? Like, do you believe in Ben Johnson? Do you believe in Caleb Williams?
I do. Yep, I'm a believer in the Bears. I think that they have above average defensive roster and then a top 10 offensive roster. I mean, they're just great up front. If any of the receivers take the next step, which I believe that they probably will. I mean, Roma Dunze has always continued to be like a dude in college, had a good rookie year, decent second year. I think that he could take a step. And then Luther Burden, another guy that analytically, Luther Burden is up there when it comes to all the different measurements of route running, when you're open, breakaway. I mean, I think that Luther Burden could take another big step. And then, running the football, I like both running backs. I think DeAndre Swift is also underrated, but it all starts up front offensively. I think it might be the best offensive line in the league, which is you can't bat an eye at.
Well, and man, that's the thing. I scream at the clouds about this all the time, but the two best offensive lines in the league are the Chicago Bears and the Denver Broncos, and that's not a coincidence that those two teams are two of the best teams in the league in terms of their records. Like sometimes we get so awash in all the offensive skill guys, all the edge rushers, all the corners. If you got the best offensive line in the league and you got a quarterback with an arm like Caleb Williams, you're going to have a fighting chance. I know I'm biased against the Bears. I just hate the Bears. It's impossible for me to believe the Bears can be good, but they just are good. Like personnel-wise, they just are good. They have above-average defense. They led the league in takeaways a year ago. They have a great offensive line, and they got a transcendent quarterback, transcendent talent at quarterback. So I think they're going to be right there in the mix. In terms of how the book is going to handicap this, let's go bottom to top. I think the Vikings will be the pick to finish fourth in this division, but I think that we could see I think all four of these teams could finish first through fourth in this division, depending on how it goes.
Yeah,
I think the Vikings will have the Vikings have the hardest time winning it, though.
You could tell me all four of these teams are 9-5 over win total over under.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Bears will probably be the top, but I think, if we start with the Vikings, I would say that they're probably going to put them exactly what their record was last year, which is 9-8. So that would be 8.5 wins.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right on. I think 8.5.
That could be up to 9.5 with Kyler Murray being named the starter.
I don't think so. I don't think he's enough to move the needle.
Yeah, I mean, if with JJ McCarthy, I would have said 8.5. Maybe even I would have said 8.5, 7.5, 8.5. But with Kyler, personally, I'm going to say 9.5.
Okay. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I got 8.5 as well. All right, let's go to the Lions next, since they finished actually technically last in this division.
It's insane that they got last. That's crazy.
It's insane they got last. So I saw a line. This is one of the only – I've only seen two lines before we did this exercise. I saw the Cardinals line because I was doing my show from Cash One Pawn, and our good buddy Steve, who's the manager out there at Cash One, he's a diehard Cardinals fan. He's from Phoenix. So he was talking about how the Cardinals have the lowest over/under win total in the league. I know that. So
that's a good fandom right there.
It's great to be the fan of the team that has a 3.5 over/under win total. I was like, Steve, think about it like this: you have to bet the over because they're going to win 4 games, but maybe they won't. And either way, you're going to be riding the Lightning all the way to the end of the year. Every time they get a win, you'll be 1/3 closer to the total. But the other line I saw was the Lions, but I can't imagine that the line has stayed here. The Lions opened at 7.5.
What?
Take all my money if the Lions are at 7.5. But I know for a fact that can't be what it is now.
There's no chance.
So I'm putting it at 9.5.
Yeah, 9.5.
But yeah, because Hayden Smith, our producer, he was asking me questions from behind the glass, and we were talking about the Lions. Can the Lions get it back on track? And he proclaimed this was several months ago, but he proclaimed like that they're sitting at 7.5 to open the year. I was like, that's just crazy. But I'm putting it at 9.5. Are you with me?
Yeah, I like 9.5. And I mean, it could even, I like 9.5. I don't think it's 10.5 because they're not in the same roster class as those other teams that we've had at 10.5. The Eagles, the Bills, the Patriots, the Ravens. I don't think they have quite that roster, but it's close. And if they find a little magic like they have, I mean, it's a good team, man.
So, I guess just to sort of fast forward and also make sure we're on time, we only got about 4.5 minutes left. I think that the Lions, the Packers, and the Bears are all just going to be 9.5.
That's what I said. I think the Vikings could be. I think the whole division could just be 9.5.
Right, and I think the Vikings will be one lower just because of the tumult at quarterback. And I don't know how much faith people have in Kyler Murray, but I think the Bears, the Packers, and the Lions are all just sitting there at 9.5.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they're all 9.5, and I could see all three of those teams, just like last year, flirting and easily getting to 10 wins. The Vikings, I'll make a pick here when we're doing this, Colter, but I'm going to have to really think about it for the next couple weeks as the season comes closer, whether or not I believe in the Kyler Murray train and whether or not I'm going to jump on the over or under here. But like, I do think that I would probably lean on the over for all four of these teams.
Wow. Okay, so let's tell us what the lines actually are, and then we'll actually make our picks. Only got about 3 minutes left here on Nuanez Now All Football. Time probably presented by Sports.
All right, let me grab it here. So,
okay,
Vikings are 8.5.
Okay,
so,
we nailed that one.
Yep. The Bears are 9.5.
Nailed it.
The Packers are 9.5.
Nailed it.
And the Lions are 10.5.
Whoa, big movers for the Lions.
Wow. So that puts them in that class of those top teams.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, that's the big boys.
All right, let's start top down. I'm taking the under on the Lions. I love the roster. I don't believe in what they got going on. I think that they're going to stay exactly where they were at from a year ago.
Gosh, I'm so torn. So 11 wins would be the implied over.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the over.
Okay. The Packers. I'm taking the over. I think the Packers had every possible thing that could go wrong for them last year, and they still made the playoffs. I think that with Micah Parsons having a full season under his belt, and this is not even because I believe in Jordan Love, because I actually don't, but I just think the Packers are going to be 11 or 12 win team.
I don't really believe in Jordan Love either. I love Josh Jacobs. He might face suspension, which would affect this line for me. He's got a domestic violence thing going on.
Yeah.
I am going to take the over as well.
Okay. Then the Bears, 9.5. I'm just blind to this. I don't know. I think the Bears could be 8 to 11 wins. So I hate this. I think this is a stay away. But just for argument's sake, I'm going to take the under.
Okay. I'm going to take the over. As I mentioned, I just love the offensive line. They traded for Garrett Bradbury from New England, who's one of the best centers in the league. So
you're still playing for the Vikings.
Yep, improved the offensive line. It's like, yeah. I just think that it's a 10-win team.
All right, Vikings 8.5. I'm hammering the over. Give it to me all day long. I'm in. Kyler Murray, he's going to go nuts. The Vikings will win 11 or 12 games.
Oh my gosh, he has planted his flag.
Let's go.
All right, I'm going to take the under.
Yeah,
a little bit for argument's sake, but also I just don't love the roster. There's just nothing that shines to me.
If you are listening to this and you are tailing us, ignore what I said about the Vikings and the Bears. Do whatever you think out there. Actually, just ignore what I said about this whole division besides the Packers. Because I think the Lions could absolutely blow that over-under out of the water, and the Vikings could go 6-11 or 5-12, and the Bears could win 12 games and be the number one seed in the NFC. So just ignore me when it comes to this. This is the one division that I am completely biased towards, and I'm just standing where I'm standing.
And my recommendation for those is just to go through game by game, see the tough non-divisional opponents that they get at home rather than the road. If you're playing a bunch of tough teams on the road, it's gonna uphill battle all year. Like, you're going to lose a lot of those tough games on the road. So just is what it is.
Nuanez Now Watch 90 ESPN Radio, all football all the time, rolls on. We'll have another one of these next Thursday, and then we'll have the last one on the Tuesday before the season opener. For Brooks Nuanez, I'm Colter Nuanez. Have yourself a wonderful Thursday evening and be good. We'll see you at 4 p.m. tomorrow. Nuanez Now 102.9 ESPN Radio.